Millionaire's 8-year-old daughter exposes bride's deadly secret at altar. Dad immediately dials 911. What would you do if you discovered that the woman your father was about to marry was slowly killing him, and you were the only one who could stop it? That's exactly the impossible situation Maya Chen found herself in just 6 months ago. And before you think this is just another made-up story, let me tell you, this really happened. A brilliant 8-year-old girl used her love of science and her unshakable determination to save her father's life from a killer hiding behind the perfect smile. By the end of this story, you'll never look at a perfect stepmother the same way again, and you'll understand why sometimes the smallest voice in the room carries the biggest truth. I know what you're thinking. How could an 8-year-old possibly uncover a murder plot that fooled every adult around her? How could someone so young have the courage to stand up at a wedding and expose a deadly secret? Well, Maya Chen wasn't just any 8-year-old. She was the daughter of a brilliant scientist who had taught her to ask questions, observe carefully, and never ignore her instincts. This is the incredible story of Maya Chen, a half-Asian girl living in Silicon Valley with her tech mogul father, David. After losing her mother to cancer just 6 months earlier, Maya and her dad were still learning how to be a family of two. David was one of those successful entrepreneurs you read about, the kind who built a multi-million-dollar tech company from nothing, who could solve complex business problems in his sleep. But when it came to matters of the heart, he was just a lonely widower, desperate to bring happiness back into his daughter's life. Enter Dr. Elena Voss, a stunning biochemist who seemed like the answer to all their prayers. She was beautiful, intelligent, caring, and showed genuine interest in becoming Maya's stepmother. She brought homemade cookies, helped with homework, and even encouraged Maya's love of science. To everyone who met her, Elena was perfect. Too perfect, as it turned out. What started as Maya's innocent questions about her father's new girlfriend turned into a terrifying discovery. Elena wasn't just after David's fortune. She was systematically poisoning him with an experimental drug that would make his death look like a natural heart attack. With a $50 million life insurance policy and a carefully planned accident on their honeymoon, Elena was just weeks away from becoming a very wealthy widow. But she hadn't counted on Maya Chen. You see, Maya's mother had been a medical researcher who taught her daughter that the best scientists never stop asking questions. And Maya had a lot of questions about Elena. Why did her dad start getting sick headaches right after they started dating? Why did Elena always insist on making his tea? Why did she ask so many questions about his business and finances? Why couldn't Maya find any information about Elena's past online? Most adults would have dismissed these as the concerns of a jealous child who didn't want her father to remarry. But Maya's maternal grandmother, Grandma Liu, had raised a scientist herself and knew better than to ignore a curious mind. Together with Dr. Sarah Kim, a family friend and pediatrician who had worked with Maya's mother, they began to investigate. What they discovered was chilling. Elena Voss wasn't even her real name. She was actually Dr. Vanessa Hill, a brilliant but twisted biochemist who had perfected the art of murdering wealthy men for their money. She had done this before, at least 3 times that they could prove. Her method was always the same: meet a grieving widower, become the perfect partner, slowly poison him with untraceable compounds, then collect the insurance money and disappear. This story matters because it shows us something powerful about courage, family, and the importance of listening to children. Maya could have been just another kid who felt uneasy about a new step-parent. Instead, she became a hero who used her intelligence, her scientific training, and her unbreakable love for her father to save his life. But this isn't just a story about a clever kid catching a bad guy. It's about how families can survive the unthinkable when they stick together. It's about how grief can make us vulnerable to people who prey on our loneliness. And most importantly, it's about how children's voices and concerns deserve to be taken seriously by the adults in their lives. As we dive into Maya's story, you'll see how a little girl's determination to protect her family led her to uncover a deadly conspiracy that had fooled everyone else. You'll witness the moment when she had to choose between staying quiet and speaking up, even when it meant disrupting her father's wedding in front of hundreds of people. And you'll discover how sometimes the most important scientific discoveries happen not in a laboratory, but in the heart of a child who refuses to give up on the people she loves. If you're ready for a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat and remind you why family bonds are the strongest force in the world, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories. And let me know in the comments, have you ever had a gut feeling about someone that turned out to be right? The morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows of the Chen family home in Palo Alto, casting warm light across the breakfast table where Maya sat working on her volcano model. It was the kind of house that felt lived in and loved. Family photos covered the refrigerator, her mother's favorite coffee mug still sat in the cabinet, and the garden outside bloomed with flowers that Dr. Jennifer Lu Chen had planted before she got sick. 6 months had passed since Maya's mother lost her battle with cancer, and the house still echoed with memories. Maya had inherited her mother's curiosity and love of science, spending hours in what used to be Mom's home office, now converted into Maya's study space. Her current project involved testing different materials to see which would make the best volcano eruption, a fitting metaphor for what was about to happen to their peaceful life. David Chen appeared in the doorway, straightening his tie and grabbing his coffee. At 42, he was still handsome in that successful tech executive way. Sharp suits, confident smile, the kind of man who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions before most people had their morning coffee. But Maya noticed things others didn't, like how he'd been looking tired lately, getting headaches more often, and sometimes forgetting little things that he never used to forget. "How's the volcano coming along, sweetheart?" he asked, kissing the top of her head. "Good, but I think I need to adjust the baking soda ratio," Maya replied, then looked up at her father with those perceptive brown eyes that reminded everyone of her mother. "Dad, are you feeling okay? You look tired." David paused for just a moment, the kind of pause that meant something was different. "Actually, Maya, I've been meaning to talk to you about something that might make both of us feel a little less tired and a lot happier." Maya set down her measuring spoons. In the months since her mother's death, she'd learned to read her father's moods like a scientist reading data. This wasn't his usual morning rush energy. This was nervous excitement, the kind that made her stomach flutter with uncertainty. "Remember how I mentioned I've been spending time with a new friend, Dr. Elena Voss?" Maya nodded slowly. She'd met Elena 3 times now, a tall, elegant woman with perfect hair and a smile that never seemed to falter. Elena worked as a biochemist at a research facility across town and always seemed to say exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment. She complimented Maya's science projects, brought thoughtful gifts, and made her father laugh in a way he hadn't since before Mom got sick. "Well," David continued, his voice getting more animated, "Elena and I have been talking about our future together, about what it might look like to become a real family." The words hung in the air between them. Maya felt something twist in her chest, not jealousy exactly, but something more complicated, a warning signal that she couldn't quite name. "She makes me happy, Maya. Happier than I've been in a long time. And I think your mom would want that for us." Maya studied her father's face. He did look happier recently, but also more fragile somehow. His hands shook slightly when he reached for his coffee, and those headaches he'd been having seemed to be getting worse. She'd noticed him taking more and more pain medication, and sometimes he'd forget conversations they'd had just the day before. "I'm thinking about asking Elena to marry me," David said, watching Maya's reaction carefully. "How would you feel about that? About having Elena as your stepmother?" The question felt huge, bigger than their kitchen could contain. Maya looked around at the familiar space, her mother's recipe card still magneted to the refrigerator, the family photo from last Christmas where Mom was already getting thin but still smiling, the coffee mug with "World's Best Mom" that neither of them had been able to put away. "Do you love her?" Maya asked, because that's what her mother would have wanted to know. "I do," David said, and Maya could hear the relief in his voice. "I really do. And she loves both of us. She's excited about the possibility of being your mom, Maya. She already has ideas about redecorating your room, maybe taking some cooking classes together." Maya forced herself to smile, the way she'd learned to do when adults needed her to be okay with things that didn't feel okay. "If she makes you happy, Dad, then I'm happy too." David pulled her into a tight hug, completely missing the worry in his daughter's eyes. We're going to be a family again, sweetheart. Everything is going to be perfect. But as Maya hugged her father back, breathing in his familiar scent of coffee and aftershave, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Not with the idea of her father finding love again. She wanted him to be happy. But something about Elena herself. Something about the timing. The way her father had been getting sicker instead of healthier. The way Elena always seemed to be watching and calculating. That evening, after her father had gone to bed early with another headache, Maya sat in her room and called the one person who always took her seriously. Grandma Lou? It's Maya. Dad wants to marry Elena, and I think something's not right. The first time Maya really studied Elena Voss, she was standing in their kitchen making herbal tea for David's headaches, moving through their family space like she already owned it. Elena was undeniably beautiful, tall and elegant, with chestnut hair that caught the light just right, the kind of woman who made other people feel slightly underdressed just by existing. But it wasn't her beauty that made Maya uneasy. It was the way Elena's eyes never quite matched her smile. This is a special blend I make myself, Elena was explaining to David, who sat at the kitchen island looking pale and tired. Chamomile, lavender, and a few other herbs that are excellent for stress relief. You've been working so hard lately, darling. Maya watched from the doorway as Elena handed her father the steaming mug, her perfectly manicured fingers lingering on his hand, just a beat too long. Elena noticed everything, where David kept his business files, which photos were his favorites, how much money he spent on groceries. For someone who claimed to love him, she asked an awful lot of practical questions. Maya, sweetheart, Elena turned with that radiant smile. I didn't see you there. Come join us. I was just telling your father about my idea for redecorating the living room. Those old photos are so dated, don't you think? We could create something fresh and new. The photos Elena called dated were family pictures that included Maya's mother. Wedding photos, vacation snapshots, the last Christmas they'd all spent together. Maya felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice level. I like those photos. They're my family. Of course they are, honey. Elena's tone was patient, like she was talking to a much younger child. But sometimes holding on to the past too tightly can prevent us from embracing the future. Your mother would want you and your father to be happy, wouldn't she? It was smoothly done, using Maya's mother's memory to justify erasing her presence from the house. David nodded along, sipping his tea, already looking drowsier than he had minutes before. Elena's right, sweetheart, he said, his words slightly slurred with fatigue. Maybe it's time for some changes around here. Later that week, Maya found herself alone with Elena while David was upstairs taking a nap, another new habit that worried her. Elena was in David's home office, ostensibly looking for a pen, but Maya noticed she had several of his business files spread across the desk. What are you doing? Maya asked from the doorway. Elena looked up without the slightest trace of embarrassment. Your father asked me to help organize his insurance paperwork. We're updating his beneficiaries now that we're getting married. Very boring adult stuff. But Maya had seen the papers Elena was reading. Financial statements, investment portfolios, business valuations, not insurance forms. You're not married yet, Maya pointed out. Elena's smile never wavered, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Soon enough, darling, soon enough. That evening at dinner, Maya decided to test her growing suspicions. While Elena served the soup she'd made, another specialty recipe she claimed, Maya asked the question that had been bothering her. Elena, where did you live before you moved to California? Elena's spoon paused halfway to her mouth for just a fraction of a second. Arizona, sweetheart. I told you that before. Which city? Phoenix. The answer came quickly, but Elena's eyes darted toward David, who was barely following the conversation. What was the name of the research facility where you worked? Maya, David interrupted weakly. Why the interrogation? But Maya pressed on. I tried to look you up online for my school project about careers in science, but I couldn't find any information about your research. What kind of experiments did you do? Elena set down her spoon with deliberate calm. I worked on private pharmaceutical research, Maya. Very confidential. Most of my work isn't published publicly. She reached over and touched David's hand. "Darling, you look exhausted. Why don't you go rest? Maya and I can clean up." After David stumbled upstairs, moving like a man much older than his 42 years, Elena turned to Maya with an expression that was no longer even pretending to be warm. "You're a very curious little girl, aren't you?" "My mom always said curiosity was a good thing." "Your mother was a scientist. She would understand that some questions are better left unasked." Elena began clearing the dishes with efficient movements. "Your father is finally happy again, Maya. He's building a new life, a new future. It would be a shame if someone interfered with that happiness." The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. Maya felt a chill run down her spine, but she also felt something else: determination. Her mother had taught her that the best scientists never backed down from difficult questions, even when other people didn't want them asked. That night, as Maya lay in bed listening to her father cough in the room down the hall, another new symptom, she made a decision. Elena Voss might have fooled her father and everyone else, but Maya was going to find out the truth. She owed it to her mother's memory, and more importantly, she owed it to her father's life, because Maya was becoming increasingly certain that David Chen was in real danger, and she might be the only one who could save him. The Wilson Elementary Science Lab smelled like vinegar and hope on Thursday afternoon, but Maya Chen wasn't thinking about her volcano project. Instead, she sat at the back table with her notebook, writing down every strange thing she'd noticed about Elena Voss over the past month. Her mother had always said that good scientists document everything, and Maya was about to become the most thorough scientist of her life. "Let's see what we have here," she whispered to herself, reviewing her list. Dad's headaches started right after Elena began making him tea. Elena asks too many questions about money and business. She couldn't find Elena's research work online anywhere. Elena wants to remove all photos of Mom. Dad is getting sicker, not healthier, since they started dating Mrs. Peterson, her science teacher, noticed Maya's intense focus. "Working on something new, Maya?" "Just observing patterns," Maya replied carefully, "like Mom taught me." After school, Maya walked the 6 blocks to Grandma Liu's house instead of taking the bus home. Her maternal grandmother lived in a cozy cottage surrounded by the most beautiful garden in the neighborhood. Roses, jasmine, and herbs that reminded Maya of the teas her mother used to make when Maya was sick. Grandma Liu was 68 years old, with silver hair always pulled back in a neat bun, but her mind was as sharp as any scientist, half her age. She'd raised Maya's mother to be curious and fearless, and she recognized the same determination in her granddaughter's eyes. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world, little scientist," Grandma Liu said, serving Maya jasmine tea and homemade almond cookies in her sunny kitchen. Maya pulled out her notebook. "Grandma, I need to tell you something, but I need you to promise to take me seriously." "I always take you seriously, Maya. What's troubling you?" Maya opened her notebook and began reading her observations about Elena. Grandma Liu listened without interruption, her expression growing more concerned with each item on the list. "And there's something else," Maya continued. "I tried to research Elena online. I found a doctor, Elena Voss, who worked at a pharmaceutical company in Arizona, but the company was investigated by the FDA 3 years ago for illegal drug testing. Then the website disappeared." Grandma Liu set down her teacup with a sharp clink. "Show me what you found." They moved to Grandma Liu's computer, where Maya demonstrated her search results. Most traces of Elena's professional history seemed to vanish into dead links and deleted pages. "This is very strange," Grandma Liu murmured. "A legitimate researcher would have publications, conference presentations, colleagues who could vouch for her work." "Dad won't listen to me," Maya said, frustration creeping into her voice. "He thinks I'm just jealous or having trouble adjusting. But, Grandma, he's getting sicker. Yesterday, he forgot we had a dentist appointment, and this morning, he could barely finish his breakfast." Grandma Liu studied her granddaughter's face, the same intelligent eyes as her daughter Jennifer, the same stubborn determination. "Maya, what exactly are you asking me to do?" "Help me investigate, like real scientists. We need evidence that adults will believe." The next morning, Grandma Liu called Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been Jennifer's colleague and closest friend at the Medical Research Center. Dr. Kim agreed to meet them at her pediatric office during lunch break, curious about Maya's concerns. Dr. Sarah Kim was in her early 40s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She'd known Maya since birth and had been like an aunt to her after Jennifer's death. "Tell me about your father's symptoms," Dr. Kim said, taking Maya seriously in the way that made her feel heard. Maya read from her notebook. Headaches that are getting worse, fatigue, memory problems, hand tremors, nausea, and trouble sleeping. It all started about 6 weeks ago. Dr. Kim's expression grew troubled. "Maya, those symptoms together, they could indicate several serious conditions. Has your father seen a doctor?" "He says it's just stress from work and planning the wedding. Elena keeps making him special teas for the headaches." "What kind of teas?" "She says it's chamomile and lavender, but they smell different, bitter like medicine." Dr. Kim exchanged a meaningful look with Grandma Liu. "Maya, I want you to understand that what you're suggesting is very serious, but your observations are too detailed and too concerning to ignore." She pulled out a medical reference book. "These symptoms could be caused by certain types of poisoning, specifically compounds that would be difficult to detect without knowing what to look for." Maya felt her heart racing. "So, Elena could be poisoning Dad?" "It's possible. Someone with biochemistry knowledge would know how to administer toxins gradually, making the victim appear to be naturally ill." Grandma Liu leaned forward. "What do we do?" "We need evidence, Doctor," Kim said firmly. "Real evidence, and we need to be very careful. If Elena suspects we're investigating her, she might accelerate whatever timeline she's working with." Maya opened her notebook to a fresh page. "Then we become detectives, real ones." For the first time in weeks, Maya felt hope mixing with her fear. She wasn't alone anymore, and she wasn't crazy. 2 adults finally believed her, and together, they were going to save her father's life. Even if it meant uncovering a truth more dangerous than Maya had ever imagined. Dr. Sarah Kim's pediatric office had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. 3 generations of determined women sat around the small consultation table. 68-year-old Grandma Liu with her sharp eyes and steady hands, 40-something Dr. Kim with her medical expertise, and 8-year-old Maya with her notebook full of carefully documented suspicions. "Before we go any further," Dr. Kim said, her voice serious but gentle, "I need to examine your father properly. Can you get him to come in for a checkup?" Maya shook her head. "He keeps saying he's fine, just stressed, and Elena always agrees with him. She says doctors worry too much about normal things." "That's suspicious in itself," Grandma Liu observed. "Jennifer always insisted on regular checkups for everyone in the family." Dr. Kim pulled out a medical form. "Maya, I'm going to give you a list of symptoms to watch for. Document everything. What time symptoms appear, what your father ate or drank beforehand, how long they last. Scientists need data." Over the next week, Maya became a detective in her own home. She noted that her father's symptoms were always worse about 30 minutes after drinking Elena's special tea. She observed that Elena seemed to know exactly when David would feel sick, already having remedies prepared. Most disturbing of all, Maya discovered that Elena had been researching David's business extensively, printing out financial documents when she thought no one was watching. The breakthrough came on a rainy Saturday afternoon. Maya and Grandma Liu had decided to stake out Elena's apartment building across town, partly to learn more about her routine, partly because Maya felt like a real detective gathering surveillance. "There," Maya whispered from the passenger seat of Grandma Liu's car. "That's her building." Elena's apartment complex was sleek and modern, the kind of place that cost serious money. Through the lobby's glass doors, they could see Elena talking to a nervous-looking young man with sandy hair and thick glasses. "Who's that?" Grandma Liu asked. "I don't know, but look how scared he seems." The young man kept shaking his head while Elena spoke intensely to him. Finally, he pulled out a key and led Elena toward the back of the building, toward what looked like basement access stairs. "They're going to the basement," Maya said. "Why would anyone have a meeting in a basement?" After Elena and the man disappeared downstairs, Grandma Liu made a decision that surprised Maya. "Come on, we're going to get a closer look." "Grandma, your mother didn't raise a coward, and neither did I. Sometimes you have to take risks to protect the people you love." They approached the building carefully. The basement windows were partially below ground level, but Maya was exactly the right height to peer through if she crouched behind the landscaping. What she saw made her blood run cold. The basement had been converted into a sophisticated laboratory. Glass beakers, electronic equipment, and rows of small bottles lined metal shelves. Elena moved around the space with professional efficiency, measuring precise amounts of various compounds, while the young man, who Maya now realized must be her assistant, watched nervously. "Jake, stop looking so guilty," Elena was saying. "This is just biochemistry, perfectly legal research." "But the test subject doesn't know he's a test subject," Jake replied, his voice shaky. "That's not legal. That's not ethical. Ethics are a luxury we can't afford. The compound needs to work gradually, untraceable, mimicking natural cardiac episodes. David Chen is the perfect test case, wealthy enough to make it worth our while, isolated enough that no one will ask difficult questions." Maya's hands trembled as she fumbled for her phone, trying to record what she was hearing. "The wedding is in 2 weeks," Elena continued. "After the honeymoon, we'll increase the dosage. A tragic heart attack, very sudden. The grieving widow inherits everything, just like we planned." Jake was shaking his head. "This is murder, Elena. I can't be part of murder." "You're already part of it," Elena snapped. "You've been synthesizing the compounds for months. You think the police will care that you had second thoughts?" Maya had heard enough. She carefully backed away from the window, her heart pounding so loudly she was afraid Elena might hear it. Grandma Liu saw her granddaughter's pale face and immediately guided her back to the car. "What did you see?" "She's poisoning Dad," Maya whispered. "It's not just marriage fraud. She's planning to kill him after the wedding." Grandma Liu started the car with hands that were steadier than Maya felt inside. "Then we need help. Real help. Who's going to believe us? We're an old lady and a kid." "Doctor? Kim will believe us, and there's someone else we need to call." "Who?" Grandma Liu pulled out her phone. "The police. Because this isn't just about protecting your father anymore, Maya. This is about stopping a killer." As they drove back through the rain, Maya realized their investigation had just become much more dangerous. Elena wasn't just a con artist. She was a murderer with a carefully planned timeline, and the wedding was only 2 weeks away. Detective Rosa Martinez had seen a lot of unusual cases in her 15 years with the Palo Alto Police Department, but an 8-year-old reporting a murder conspiracy was definitely a first. She sat across from Maya, Grandma Liu, and Dr. Kim in the small conference room at the station, studying the notebook full of observations and the blurry photos Maya had managed to take through Elena's basement window. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Detective Martinez said, her voice professional but not dismissive. "You believe Dr. Elena Voss is systematically poisoning your father with the intent to kill him after their wedding?" Maya nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "She has a whole laboratory in her basement. I heard her talking about increasing the dosage after their honeymoon." "And you saw a man named Jake who seemed reluctant to help her?" "He said it was murder and that he couldn't be part of it, but Elena said he was already involved because he'd been making the poison for months." Detective Martinez made notes on her pad. "Dr. Kim, from a medical standpoint, are Mr. Chen's symptoms consistent with intentional poisoning?" "Unfortunately, yes," Dr. Kim replied. "The combination of neurological and cardiac symptoms Maya has documented could indicate several types of slow-acting toxins. Someone with Elena's biochemistry background would know exactly how to administer them." "The problem is proof," Detective Martinez explained gently. "What you've told me is concerning, but it's not enough for a search warrant. I need concrete evidence of criminal activity." Maya felt her heart sink. "So we just wait for her to kill my dad?" "No," Detective Martinez said firmly. "We investigate properly. But I need you to promise me something, Maya. No more surveillance missions. If Elena is as dangerous as you suspect, you could be putting yourself and your grandmother at serious risk." That evening, Maya sat in her room, feeling helpless and frustrated. The wedding was 12 days away, and her father was getting sicker. During dinner, he'd barely been able to finish his soup, and Elena had been right there with her special tea and concerned expressions. A soft knock at her bedroom door interrupted her thoughts. "Maya?" "It's me." She opened the door to find Jake, Elena's nervous assistant, standing in the hallway. He looked terrified. "How did you get in here?" Maya whispered. "Your back door was unlocked. I need to talk to you. I know you were watching us at the laboratory." Maya's hand moved toward her phone, but Jake held up his hands. "Please, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." "Why should I trust you?" Jake ran his hands through his sandy hair. "Because I can't sleep at night knowing what Elena's planning. Because I got into biochemistry to help people, not kill them. And because you're the only person who seems to realize what she really is." Maya studied his face. He looked genuinely distressed, not threatening. "Tell me what you know." Jake glanced around nervously before sitting on the edge of Maya's desk chair. "Elena isn't her real name. It's Vanessa Hill. She's done this before, at least 3 times that I know of. She finds wealthy widowers, gets them to marry her, then kills them with compounds that mimic natural causes." "Why are you helping her?" "Because I'm an idiot," Jake said bitterly. "I was her research assistant at the pharmaceutical company in Arizona. When the FDA started investigating us for illegal drug trials, she convinced me to help her disappear. She said we'd start fresh, do legitimate research. But she's been planning this from the beginning." Maya grabbed her notebook. "What kind of poison is she using?" "It's a synthetic compound that affects both the nervous system and the heart. In small doses, it causes the symptoms your father's been experiencing. In larger doses..." Jake didn't finish the sentence. "How much time do we have?" "She's been building up the toxin levels gradually so the death looks natural. Based on her timeline, she'll administer the fatal dose during their honeymoon trip to Hawaii. She's planned it to look like your father had a heart attack while swimming." Maya felt sick. "We have to stop her." "I know. That's why I'm here. I can get you samples of the compound she's been giving your father. Real evidence that the police can test." "When?" "Tomorrow night. Elena's having dinner with your father, right? She always leaves her laboratory unlocked when she's out because she doesn't think anyone knows about it." Maya thought quickly. "I'll need to get the samples to Detective Martinez immediately." Jake nodded. "There's something else you need to know. Elena suspects you've been asking questions. She's planning to accelerate her timeline if she feels threatened. We might not have until the honeymoon." "What do you mean?" "If she thinks you're getting too close to the truth, she might try to kill your father before the wedding. She's desperate, Maya, and desperate people do unpredictable things." As Jake prepared to leave, Maya grabbed his arm. "Why are you really helping me?" He looked at her with sad eyes. "Because I had a little sister once. She would have been about your age now. I couldn't protect her from a drunk driver, but maybe I can protect you from Elena." After Jake left, Maya sat on her bed, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she'd learned. Elena was a serial killer with a proven method and a flexible timeline. Her father was walking around with poison in his system, getting sicker every day. And now Maya had to trust a conflicted accomplice to help her gather the evidence that might save her father's life. Tomorrow night, she would become a real detective, whether she was ready or not. Maya's hands shook as she held the small vial Jake had given her the night before. Inside the clear glass container was a sample of the compound Elena had been using to slowly poison her father. Finally, concrete proof that Detective Martinez could test. But as Maya sat in Dr. Kim's office with Grandma Liu, waiting for her father to arrive, she realized the hardest part was still ahead of her. "Remember," Dr. Kim said gently, "your father is going to resist this information. Elena has been manipulating him for months, and the poison itself can affect judgment and memory. Be patient with him." David Chen walked into the pediatric office looking confused and slightly irritated. "Maya, what's this about? Dr. Kim said you needed to talk to me urgently about your health, but you look fine to me." Maya took a deep breath. "Dad, please sit down. This isn't about my health. It's about yours." "What are you talking about?" Dr. Kim gestured to the chair across from Maya. "David, please. We have some serious concerns we need to discuss." Maya opened her notebook, now thick with weeks of observations, photos, and evidence. "Dad, Elena has been poisoning you." David's face went through several expressions: surprise, confusion, then anger. "Maya, that's enough. I know you're having trouble accepting Elena, but making accusations like this..." "Dad, please listen," Maya interrupted. "Look at this." She showed him the timeline she'd created, documenting his symptoms against Elena's visits and the tea she made for him. "These are coincidences, sweetheart. I've been stressed with work and wedding planning." Grandma Liu leaned forward. "David, when was the last time you felt truly healthy? Really think about it." David paused, his brow furrowing as he tried to remember. It's been a while, but that's normal for a man my age with my responsibilities." "You're 42 years old," Dr. Kim said firmly. "The symptoms Maya has documented are not normal for anyone, especially not someone your age with no previous health problems." Maya pulled out her phone, showing him the photos she'd taken through Elena's basement window. "She has a laboratory, Dad. She's been making the poison that's making you sick." David stared at the blurry images, his confusion deepening. "Maya, these could be photos of anything. Elena's a biochemist. Of course she has lab equipment." "Dad, her real name isn't Elena Voss. It's Vanessa Hill, and she's done this before to other men. Other widowers like you." "That's impossible. I know Elena. I love her, and she loves me." Maya felt tears of frustration building. "She loves your money, Dad. She's planning to kill you on your honeymoon and make it look like a heart attack." David stood up abruptly, swaying slightly. "I can't listen to this anymore. Maya, I understand you're scared about changes in our family, but these fantasies have gone too far." Just then, the office door opened, and Elena walked in, looking perfectly composed and concerned. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but David, you missed our lunch appointment. I was worried when you didn't answer your phone." Maya felt ice run through her veins. Elena's presence was too convenient, too perfectly timed. "Elena," David said, relief evident in his voice, "Maya's been telling some very disturbing stories about you." Elena's eyes swept the room, taking in the notebook, the photos, the vial of evidence on Dr. Kim's desk. For just a moment, her mask slipped, and Maya saw calculation behind her concerned expression. "What kind of stories?" Elena asked, moving closer to David. She thinks you're trying to hurt me." Elena's laugh was perfectly pitched, surprised but gentle. "Oh, sweetie," she said to Maya, "I know this is hard for you. Losing your mother was traumatic, and now with the wedding coming up, you're probably feeling scared about losing your father too." It was brilliantly done. Elena had just reframed Maya's accusations as trauma response and wedding anxiety. "But darling," Elena continued to David, "perhaps we should postpone the wedding. If Maya is this distressed—" "No," Maya said quickly, realizing Elena's trap. If they postponed the wedding, Elena would just find another way to kill her father. "Dad, please. Test the tea. Test the compounds. Let Dr. Kim run blood work." Elena's hand moved to David's arm. "Of course, if it would make Maya feel better. Though I hate to see her imagination running so wild." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "David, I'd like to run some tests anyway, just to rule out any underlying health issues that might be causing your symptoms." Elena's grip on David's arm tightened almost imperceptibly. "Actually, we have a dinner reservation." "The tests can wait," David said, looking exhausted by the whole confrontation. "Elena's right. This is just Maya having trouble with the changes in our family." Maya watched her father choose Elena's version of reality over her carefully documented evidence. The poison was making him more susceptible to Elena's manipulation, and Elena was too skilled at psychological manipulation to be easily exposed. As her father and Elena prepared to leave, Maya made one last, desperate attempt. "Dad, if you won't believe me, at least don't drink anything Elena gives you, just for a few days, please." David paused at the door, looking back at his daughter with troubled eyes. For a moment, Maya thought she'd reached him. Then Elena spoke softly. "She really needs professional help, David. This level of paranoia isn't healthy." And Maya realized that Elena had just won this round. The morning of David Chen's wedding dawned bright and cloudless, the kind of perfect California day that seemed designed for new beginnings. St. Catherine's Community Church had been transformed with white roses and flowing silk ribbons, creating an atmosphere of joy and celebration that made Maya's stomach twist with dread. She stood in the small preparation room behind the sanctuary, smoothing down her junior bridesmaid dress, a pale blue creation that Elena had insisted would complement her complexion beautifully. Maya felt like she was wearing a costume in some horrible play where she was the only one who knew the ending. Detective Martinez had called that morning with devastating news. The lab results on Jake's evidence sample had come back inconclusive, not because the poison wasn't there, but because it was so sophisticated that standard toxicology tests couldn't identify it quickly enough. They needed more time, more specialized analysis, time they didn't have. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," Mrs. Henderson, the church coordinator, said as she adjusted Maya's flower crown. "Your father is going to be so proud." Maya managed to smile, but her mind was racing. Jake had warned her that Elena was becoming suspicious and might accelerate her timeline. What if Elena didn't wait for the honeymoon? What if she planned to trigger David's heart attack right here at the church? Through the small window, Maya could see guests arriving. Her father's business colleagues, family friends, people who had known and loved her mother. They had no idea they might be witnessing a murder disguised as a wedding. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Maya, it's time." Elena stood in the doorway, radiant in a wedding dress that had probably cost more than most people's cars. She was undeniably beautiful, every detail perfect from her diamond earrings to her flawless makeup. She looked like every little girl's dream of what a princess bride should be. "You and I need to have a quick chat before the ceremony," Elena said, closing the door behind her. Maya felt her heart start to race. "About what?" Elena's smile remained fixed, but her eyes were cold. "About your little investigation. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? The questions, the surveillance, the meeting with that detective? I don't know what you mean." "Of course you do. You're a very clever little girl, Maya, much cleverer than I gave you credit for. But cleverness can be dangerous when it's not properly directed." Elena moved closer, and Maya caught a scent that didn't belong, something sharp and chemical, beneath the expensive perfume. "Your father is about to marry the woman of his dreams," Elena continued. "He's happy, Maya. Happier than he's been since your mother died. Don't you want him to stay happy? Not if it means he's going to die." Elena's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something predatory underneath. "Death is inevitable for all of us, sweetie. The only question is timing. Your father is going to have a wonderful honeymoon in Hawaii. We're going snorkeling, swimming in beautiful blue water. Unfortunately, sometimes even strong swimmers have unexpected cardiac events." Maya felt sick. Elena was telling her the plan, confident that an 8-year-old couldn't stop her. "Jake told me everything," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. "About Arizona, about the other men you killed, about your real name." "Poor Jake. He's always been weak. But don't worry. After today, he won't be a problem for either of us." The implications of that statement hit Maya like ice water. Elena wasn't just planning to kill her father. She was going to eliminate Jake, too. "The ceremony is starting," Elena said, checking her diamond watch. "I expect you to smile, walk down that aisle, and play your part perfectly. Your father deserves a beautiful wedding day, don't you think?" As Elena glided out to take her place, Maya stood alone in the preparation room, her mind spinning. She had minutes, maybe less, before the ceremony began. Jake was somewhere in the church, probably disguised as one of the photographers Elena had hired. Detective Martinez was outside in an unmarked car, waiting for evidence that might never come. Maya pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to Grandma Liu, who was sitting in the third row. "Something's wrong. Elena knows everything. Be ready." Then Maya took a deep breath and walked toward the sanctuary. The organ music swelled as she stepped into the doorway, looking down the long aisle toward the altar where her father stood waiting. He looked handsome and happy, completely unaware that his bride was planning his murder. As Maya began her walk down the aisle, she made a decision that would change everything. When the minister asked if anyone objected to this marriage, she wasn't going to stay silent. Even if no adults believed her, even if she embarrassed her father in front of everyone he knew, even if Elena made good on her threats, Maya Chen was going to save her father's life, or die trying. Because sometimes an 8-year-old's voice is the only thing standing between love and murder. 1 year later, Maya stood at the podium of the Silicon Valley Science Fair, holding a blue ribbon and looking out at an audience that included her father, Grandma Liu, Dr. Kim, and even Detective Martinez. Her project display behind her read, "Recognizing Chemical Poisoning, How Scientific Observation Can Save Lives." "The most important thing I learned this year," Maya said into the microphone, "is that science isn't just about experiments in a lab. It's about asking questions when something doesn't seem right, documenting what you observe, and never giving up on finding the truth, even when adults don't want to listen to you." The audience applauded, but Maya's eyes found her father in the front row. David looked healthy again. The color had returned to his cheeks, his hands were steady, and his eyes were bright with pride. It had taken 6 months of treatment to fully clear the toxins from his system, but Dr. Kim said he'd made a complete recovery. After the ceremony, the Chen family gathered in their favorite booth at Grandma Lu's restaurant, a small Chinese place that had become their weekly tradition. The walls were covered with photos of Maya's science fair victories, newspaper clippings about the case, and family pictures that now included Dr. Kim, who had become like an aunt to Maya. "So," David said, raising his teacup in a mock toast, "what's my brilliant daughter investigating next?" Maya grinned. "Well, I've been wondering about Mrs. Patterson's cat. It keeps showing up in our yard, and I think it might be trying to tell us something." "Please tell me you're not suggesting Mrs. Patterson is a criminal mastermind," Grandma Lu laughed. "No, I think her cat is just lonely. Maybe we should get a cat too." David nearly choked on his tea. "A cat? After everything we've been through, you want to add a cat to our family?" "Why not? We handled a serial killer. I think we can manage a cat." Dr. Kim pulled out an envelope she'd been saving. "Speaking of managing things, I have some news about Vanessa." The family grew quiet. Even a year later, hearing that name still brought back difficult memories. "She was sentenced to life in prison without parole," Dr. Kim continued. "The FBI found evidence linking her to 5 other murders across 3 states. Maya, you didn't just save your father, you probably saved other families from going through what you went through." Maya felt a complex mix of emotions: relief that Elena could never hurt anyone again, sadness for the families who hadn't been as lucky as theirs, and a strange kind of pride that her investigation had made a real difference in the world. "What happened to Jake?" Maya asked. "He's in witness protection," Detective Martinez said, joining their table. She'd become a family friend over the past year, often stopping by to check on them. "He's helping the FBI identify other biochemical crimes. Turns out there are more people like Elena out there than we realized." David reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "I owe you an apology that I'll probably spend the rest of my life making up for. You tried to tell me the truth, and I chose to believe a lie because it was easier. Dad, you were being poisoned. The chemicals affected your judgment." "That's not an excuse. A good father listens to his daughter, especially when she's as smart and observant as you are." Maya squeezed his hand. "You're a good father. You just fell in love with the wrong person." "Well," Grandma Liu said with a mischievous smile, "speaking of falling in love, David, when are you going to ask Sarah on a proper date?" Dr. Kim blushed bright red while David stammered protests, and Maya burst into laughter. Some things never changed. Grandma Liu was still the family's unofficial matchmaker. Later that evening, as Maya worked on her homework at the kitchen table, she reflected on how much their lives had changed. The house felt warm and alive again, filled with laughter and the comfortable chaos of an extended family that included Grandma Liu, Dr. Kim, and even Detective Martinez. David had started the Chen Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping children who need adults to listen to their concerns. Maya served as the youngest board member, sharing her story at schools and community centers, teaching other kids that their voices mattered. "Hey, Maya," David said, looking up from his laptop. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about the cat." "Yeah? Maybe it's time our family grew a little bigger. What do you think?" Maya grinned. "I think Mom would have liked that." David nodded, his eyes soft with memory. "She would have been so proud of you, sweetheart. So incredibly proud." As Maya got ready for bed that night, she looked at the photo on her nightstand, her parents' wedding picture, now joined by new family photos that included all the people who had become part of their lives. She thought about Elena, locked away in prison, and about the other families who were safe because Maya had refused to stay quiet. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities and maybe a few mysteries to solve. After all, Maya Chen was a scientist, and scientists never stop asking questions. If Maya's story inspired you to trust your instincts and speak up when something feels wrong, please like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories of courage and family. Share this with someone who needs to remember that their voice matters, no matter how old they are. And let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to convince an adult to take your concerns seriously? What would you do if you were in Maya's situation?